M22 caught in a love triangle. My best friend's new girlfriend texts me after we hooked up, "You were the one I wanted all along." After heartbreak chaos, I still feel drawn to her. Can I trust my feelings again, or am I just a glutton for pain? In high school, I was recognized as a playboy due to my behavior with women, and many of them also pointed out that I appeared to be one. I come from a war zone, and the idea of trusting people who are not my family does not scare me, it terrifies me. Therefore, you can imagine how closed off I would be with the people who love me. I had many friends, or I would call them connections, and I always ensured they did not learn too much about me. The Playboy allegations were not unfounded. I was indeed a Playboy, and to be honest, I still feel as if I am. I always made it clear to any girl I dated that there were no strings attached, and I never had an issue when they eventually grew bored of me and left. Then I met this one girl. In school, she was infatuated with my friend. She always wanted to ensure he was okay, telling everyone she loved him and chasing after him, even though he treated her poorly. When I became friends with her, I genuinely felt sorry for her and jealous of my friend for having someone care for him, even when he pushed her away. When COVID-19 hit, I started a small business that required me to be in the car almost all day delivering products. During that time, I had not really communicated with her, and if she ever called, it would be to inquire about my friend and how he was doing. However, one day she called me and I told her I did not know where he was. She replied, "Oh, I don't care, I wanted to check on you. Did you eat today?" That was the first time a girl asked such a specific question, and it made me feel good. We had a brief conversation, and later she texted me around 6 a.m. saying she could not sleep. So I picked her up, brought her food, and we caught up. Since that day, she was always with me in the car, texting my customers, ensuring we got something to eat, and just being there for me. We started hooking up after a move she made, but my old habit prompted me to tell her that there were no strings attached. Time went by, and everything was fine until one day my friend discovered our relationship and suddenly asked her out, then requested she be with him. The group of friends I was with was always envious of the girls I would bring around or even those they knew but chose to prefer me. After that, she vanished from my life, after giving me an unforgettable night just before disappearing. Later, I learned that she had known she would start dating him that night and still chose to be intimate with me. I fell into a depression. I never reached out or attempted to persuade her to stay with me. She had made her choice, and I am not the type to chase after anyone. I was always alone and began smoking marijuana, something I had always opposed, and my friend continually flaunted her in front of me. He would send images of the hotel room where she lost her virginity to the group chat. I never intended to take her virginity, although she asked me to, but I recognized that it was wrong for her. He would tell my friends, "See, I told you he is not special." I took the girl who was with him all that time behind his back because they knew how violent I could be. I grew up as a boxer and used to teach them how to throw a punch if they ever came to my gym. A few months later, I made the foolish decision to hook up with her best friend, which I succeeded at, but I was seeking her in any girl I met and I could not find her. Then one day she texted me that she needed a ride, and like a fool without a second thought, I went and picked her up only to drop her off at my friend's place and watch her be with him. Then she asked her best friend to stop hooking up with me, and I had no objection to that. Until her best friend came back pleading about a week later, apologizing for the situation, I was indifferent. Her best friend was in love with a guy who abused her, and I was just a nicer guy, so she enjoyed spending time with me, but there were no strings attached whatsoever. I was aware of this, and it felt like a mutual relationship, quite fair. Then one day we attended a party together along with her best friend. She got drunk and became overly affectionate with me, and I was only there to look out for them since I do not drink and these parties can lead to real trouble. Her best friend grew jealous and began speaking to another guy. Being the type of person I am, I whispered in her best friend's ear, "Do not call me again, you are cut off," which I indeed enacted after that party. For some reason, her best friend threw a tantrum as if she were in love with me or something. During the party, we were all crammed together in one room around 15 people, and everyone began discussing how I had hooked up with both girls present, her and her best friend, leading to an awkward atmosphere. Then she mentioned something bizarre: "I won't post my boyfriend until he starts going to the gym." The guy she left me for had become obese. I mean, extremely overweight, and she began making fun of him. I realized she was done with him but was hesitant to leave because of her comfort zone. A few weeks later, she started calling me more frequently just to check up on me, and then she broke up with the guy she had chosen over me. At that point, I began to really mess things up. We started hanging out again daily, and she essentially wanted to be more than just friends, but I made it clear that this was not heading anywhere due to her previous betrayal, which she still argues to this day was not betrayal because I had never clarified my feelings. She had a valid point. I kept going out with her and we began to fall in love with each other. Once I started to realize that I had feelings for her, I became quite immature. I attempted to leave her 2 to 3 times a month, during which she would beg me not to go, threatening to harm herself if I left. I have spent many lengthy nights talking to suicide hotline operators when she would send me a picture of a handful of pills in her hand. I felt like she was my little girl, whom I could not have, not only because of her betrayal but also due to her cunning personality. She was messaging many men in her direct messages while begging me to be with her and literally chasing me down in her car, forcing me to call the police on her to calm her down and make her leave me alone. She never left me alone. She was losing her self-respect every day trying to pursue me while I told her to go away. I could not manage my emotions, and talking to her never changed anything. This continued for a while until she became pregnant. That was difficult. I am someone who cannot wait to be a father and show someone the world, but we understood what needed to be done due to our culture and traditions. She underwent an abortion, and that situation weighed heavily on my heart as well as on hers, so I began to act very cold when she would cry to me about her feelings, trying to calm her without getting upset myself. She thought I did not care about the abortion. I did care deeply, but two panicked individuals were not beneficial to the situation. She began to distance herself from me but still maintained daily communication until I informed her that we needed to stop talking because I could not face this uncertain future any longer. I met a Latina girl and took her out. It was a different experience than with any other girl because this Latina was 4 years older than me, and I acted differently. I was very honest with the girl who had betrayed me and explained that she needed to stop contacting me because I was exploring my options and was too young to settle for the circumstances that had transpired. I did not enjoy being with the Latina. She possessed everything I desired, yet I continuously craved the emotional highs and lows with the girl who had betrayed me. For the sake of the story, I will name the Latina Amari and the girl who had an abortion, Lee. For 5 to 6 months, I was involved with both of them. Lee was aware of Amari, but Amari did not know about Lee. One day, I gazed at Lee and realized she had absorbed all that pain and still would not let me go. I was astonished that her narcissistic personality had not enabled her to leave by now. From that point on, I truly appreciated Lee, which led me to end things with Amari and any other women I was communicating with. Lee was not okay. She felt insecure and alone. I tried my best to make her feel good again. We had wonderful moments together and I began to move past the past with her. I even took her out of the country because she had always wanted to visit New York City and I made it a point to achieve that for her. Then I returned to my home country for a month, and during that time we stayed connected through FaceTime. Things were good between us, and I made it clear that I was starting to feel better about us and that I saw potential. Big mistake. One day before I returned from my trip, she initiated a significant argument with me, claiming that I had strayed and was essentially a terrible person. We had previously discussed my actions, and she had expressed that I was a good person, saying she could see the light in me and believed I would find my way back to her, which I did. When she confronted me, I was okay with it, so I blocked her and wished her the best. However, it did not end there. She continued to pursue me with calls from unknown numbers, apologizing, although it was not entirely her fault. What happened had to happen. She kept trying to reconnect with me, but then she became distant, bringing back toxic friends from her past and associating with people she had previously told me she did not want to emulate. Her current best friend is a gay woman taking advantage of an autistic man as her boyfriend just to have a place to stay after being kicked out by her parents. She is 28, 7 years older than Lee. I did not like that friend. She seemed like the type of girl I would enjoy for a night and never hear from again. I began warning Lee, but she only grew closer to them until one day I felt utterly down and isolated after she brought her friend around me who said hurtful things, so I simply walked away. Even after all that, Lee continued to chase me, so I answered one of her calls and told her to go away because I had reconnected with Amari, which I had. Chaos broke out after that call. She arrived at my house, threatening to tell my family about everything and show them our intimate videos, throwing tantrums in my neighborhood, causing some neighbors to start recording us and lodging complaints, leading me to be placed on some kind of watch list because when a 53 woman is arguing with a 511 man, the normal instinct is to assume that the man must be the problem. I had no one to calm her down and I did something remarkably foolish. I called Amari and explained the situation and then she arrived. Lee ran towards Amari and became physical and I was caught in the middle taking the brunt of the assault. Afterward, all three of us sat in a car to talk. Lee started pleading with Amari to leave me alone, sobbing and claiming that I was meant for her. It broke my heart to see her like that, but her actions did not align with her words. Eventually, we all went home, but Lee still would not leave me alone. She would call me 100 times a day and show up at my house. I continued to feed her attention because otherwise I would have hell to deal with. The issue was that she was no longer calling to be with me. She spammed my phone just to tell me that we could remain friends and she no longer wanted to be in a romantic relationship. I felt utterly messed up. I lost so much weight and was smoking marijuana constantly. One day I saw Lee's social media story and she was partying, and there was a picture of her sandwiched between three guys while wearing traditional Pakistani bridal attire. It was a whitewashed Pakistani event where everyone behaved as if they were brides and grooms, some odd occurrence. Once I saw that image, I broke down and booked a flight back to my home country. I needed a break. I blocked her on everything and took the trip. She would send me emails about her being in significant trouble, and being the person I am, I would unblock her and call. She would then ask me whether I truly did not want to be with her. Because she was talking to another guy, a 22-year-old officer who was attractive, she said that if I kept blocking her and acting the way I had been, she would end up with him. My response was to wish her well and hope he treated her right, and she would respond by saying we could be normal friends, and she would confront him on my behalf and did not care about him, only wanting me. I would tell her that I wanted her too, but that we do not always get what we desire in life. When I returned home, it did not stop. We would meet once or twice a month for physical intimacy and fighting. The last time we had sex was about a month ago, not too long ago considering our history. When I last saw her, she requested that I not pick up her calls if she called and to stay away from her even if she tried to reach out because she had exams and could not manage the stress of having me in her life, although I had always been willing to step back. For the past 2 weeks, I have ignored her phone calls from unknown numbers, yet I found myself waiting for them and feeling disappointed when she did not call. She even uses apps like TextMe to send me messages. 2 days ago, she spam called me as she had done in the past, sending a message stating, "I just want to know if you are still alive. I was outside your house at 12:30 a.m. and your car was not there. Who are you with?" I answered her call to express my anger, but once I heard her say my name, I broke down and cried for about 5 seconds. I then asked her how her test went, and she told me that she panicked during it and did not perform as well as she had hoped. After that, I told her that giving her space was beneficial. I could not sleep that night and sent her a message wishing her the best on her next test, which was the following day, along with a cherished photo of us in Central Park, where she had been genuinely happy. She replied 8 hours later with Yua to the picture, saying she did not care about the upcoming test since it was online and she intended to cheat using ChatGPT, then remarked that she looked terrible in the image. I told her that she had been happy, to which she agreed. I then wished her a good weekend since she seemed unresponsive, and I had previously asked her to meet, to which she had initially agreed, but then 5 minutes later claimed she might go to her cousin's 2 hours away, mentioning that I might not get to see her. I sensed her regret about calling me the previous night, so I did what I always do, I blocked her. It has been 24 hours since that conversation, and she has not reached out from unknown numbers or anything else, and it feels pathetic that I am waiting for a call that I am unsure I even want to answer. I play sad music continuously, but I have quit using marijuana and refocused my energy on building muscle. Amari and I communicate, but I have not told her anything new since the physical altercation. I feel like a terrible person because I can sense that Amari is falling for me, but I feel completely empty inside. I am unsure why I wrote this. I am not the type to share, but I genuinely have no one to speak to, and I appreciate honest criticism, so please do not hold back. I am aware that I am not a good person and that lust drives my actions. I just do not know what to do to feel better. I have felt this way for the past 6 months since I returned from my first trip to my home country. I feel incredibly insecure, my confidence is shattered, I have lost touch with my connections, and I have nowhere to go or anyone to hang out with, even though I have always enjoyed that. Amari is always there for me, but guilt consumes me. For context, I was 19 years old when all this began, Lee was 17, and Amari was 25. Am I insane for still wanting to be loved? If you made it this far, I sincerely thank you from my heart. You are a wonderful person for listening to a stranger's pain. Thank you, stranger. Story 2. Caught my girlfriend cheating on her birthday with my so-called friend. I confronted her and found she was a master of deflection. You have nothing to worry about. But how could I ignore the promise ring she returned with after her girls' trip? Am I still in her heart or just a convenience? I discovered that my girlfriend of 6 years was unfaithful to me with someone I believed to be a friend, and it happened on her birthday. I ended up checking her phone on the morning of her birthday while she was getting ready. Her phone was in her game room and an alarm was going off, so I went to turn it off. Previously, I had noticed her and my so-called friend playing Fortnite together frequently without me. He is best friends with her cousin, and we usually played the game together. I started to notice that their interactions felt more friendly than I was comfortable with. We were all planning a vacation together, and I mentioned to her that I was uncomfortable with how they were constantly texting each other to join the game without me. Naturally, she became defensive and told me not to be insecure and that I had nothing to worry about. A couple of weeks passed, and when her birthday came around, I checked her phone due to an unsettling gut feeling. It turns out my instinct was right. I discovered they had been secretly flirting behind my back. I should mention that I purchased her phone, she lives with me, and I pay all the bills while taking care of her. Unsurprisingly, I was heartbroken and in shock. I skimmed through the messages, unsure of how to react. I approached her while still looking at her texts, and she appeared pale when she noticed me holding her phone. The moment I confronted her about it, she immediately went into defense mode and began blaming me. She said some hurtful things, but given her mental health issues inherited from her mother, I sometimes do not take her words seriously because she often apologizes for her behavior, even though her words have hurt me significantly. She defended him by claiming he gives her more attention and is nicer, which I found irrelevant. I was envious and furious. I couldn't imagine what might have occurred if we had gone on vacation together. She even stated she would still go if I was unable to do to work. I had so many emotions swirling in my head, yet I remained calm. I have never wanted to hurt anyone as much as I wanted to hurt him. I felt betrayed by my partner and a friend at the same time. We discussed the situation, and foolishly I still wanted to be with her since things had not escalated to a physical relationship with him. She had only known him for a month at most. It was all just text messages and gaming. I set boundaries, demanding that she cut him off entirely, but she initially resisted and said no. However, she eventually blocked his number in front of me. I was unsure if she had him on any social media, which I inadvertently forgot to inquire about. She complied with my request, but I could not determine whether it was out of a desire to repair our relationship or merely to silence me. We proceeded with the day as if nothing had happened, even though I was heartbroken. That night, I later discovered she had changed all her passwords on her devices and disabled her location. We used to share our locations, but for her to change all this after I caught her cheating was astonishing. She claimed it was because I was being too controlling and needed space. I began to notice her becoming distant, often texting with her phone turned toward me so I could not see what she was doing, insisting it was merely her friend. There was a decline in intimacy, and she no longer responded to texts as quickly as she used to. She became vague about where she was going and what she was doing, returning home late at times when she was out with her cousin's girlfriend. She started going out more frequently, alone or with someone she identified as her cousin's girlfriend or another friend, becoming angry and initiating petty arguments over trivial matters. Essentially, she made me feel like a nuisance, despite my efforts to show her affection and win her attention back. I also found a story about a sexual dream she had written in her notes which appeared to be about him. What led me to believe it was him was her line about being in what she imagined to be his room, where he covered her mouth to prevent her mother from hearing her moans. It was an incredibly graphic story that concluded with the line, "Unfortunately, it was just a dream and I woke up very aroused." That did not sit well with me. She claimed it was merely a random dream for a book she was planning to write. For the past couple of years, she had mentioned working on a graphic novel. About a week and a half ago, she traveled to Atlanta for a baseball game, stating it was going to be a girls' night with two friends. She ignored me for most of the day, staying overnight since the game ended late, and we live about 2 hours away from Atlanta. Given the circumstances of her prior infidelity, I was uncomfortable with her staying the night, but she did it anyway. I still had this guy on my PlayStation network, and I noticed he was the only one not online with the rest of our gaming friends. The only one absent raised my suspicion because I knew his work schedule and he was off that Friday. My mind began to race with thoughts that she might be with him in Atlanta, so I activated her old phone to track her location and foolishly made the mistake of going to the hotel to see if my gut feeling was correct. To cut a long story short, he was there. I saw him pull up to the front entrance, and when I drove up to him, I thought I saw my girlfriend in the passenger seat, but I was not entirely sure. I drove next to him to confirm his identity and he accelerated away, attempting to escape from me. I did not pursue him, but he took off regardless. I texted my girlfriend to ask if she was with him, not knowing that I was nearby, and she said no. She claimed she had no idea he was there, but it did not make sense why he would be in Atlanta checking out of the same hotel as her that same night. She told her family that I followed her, but I suspect she did not mention the reason why I did or that I discovered her infidelity. She denies being with him. I am convinced I saw her in the passenger seat when they pulled up to the front office, but when I moved next to him, I did not see anyone, although it appeared the seat was reclined all the way back. I did not see her leave the hotel, which she claimed was with her two female friends. Additionally, she lied about the room layout in that hotel. She said they had a two-bedroom suite with one couch, and she slept on the couch. But I fact-checked it and found they only had rooms with either one king bed and one couch or two queen beds without any couch at all. She has failed to provide any proof that she was with her friends, such as pictures from the game or anything else, especially since her cousin's girlfriend always takes photos when we hang out. It has now been a month since her birthday, and she recently returned from a family trip with her parents in Florida, bringing back a random promise ring. She claimed to have purchased it for herself, yet there was no clear explanation for why she acquired it. I cannot help but wonder if she is still communicating with this guy and if he provided her with money for the ring, but that is simply where my mind goes due to the lack of trust. She avoids discussing the situation. and we have yet to have a thorough conversation about the problems we face together. She tries to dodge the topic entirely while I attempt to understand why this happened, if it is still ongoing, and whether I am genuinely wasting my time trying to maintain our relationship. She consistently exhibits hot and cold behavior toward me, being very unkind, ignoring my texts while I see that she is still Snapchatting with others, then apologizing for her behavior, only to switch back to being warm and loving. I am at a point where I am unsure whether I should kick her out of my house and grieve the loss of this relationship. She is the love of my life, and we had so many plans and goals to achieve together, including marriage, starting a family, and succeeding in life. I have made countless sacrifices for her and now feel emotionally drained from the turmoil of daily feelings. It is like a roller coaster ride where I feel happy momentarily and then sink into depression and tears. It would devastate me to find out she is using me simply for a place to live and care while maintaining a secret relationship with him. She asserts that she no longer talks to him, but I genuinely do not know what to believe anymore. She has not made any effort to regain my trust by proving she is no longer in contact with him. Although I still share my location so she can see where I am, her location feature remains off. Moreover, she has levied allegations of infidelity against me a few times without any evidence, as if trying to coerce me into admitting something I have not done. 3 nights ago, she told me that someone on Facebook, a family member of mine, claimed to have seen me with another woman in my truck together. My girlfriend did not want to disclose who it was for fear of conflict with me. I asked her to provide proof, but she claimed she deleted the messages and could not show me. That allegation hurt deeply, as it stung to think she would accuse me of such a thing, considering I have always been loyal to her. The promise ring has been weighing heavily on my mind because it struck me as peculiar that she got one and wears it constantly, yet when I gave her a ring or any kind of jewelry, she rarely wore them at all. Suddenly, this ring has to remain on her finger where a wedding ring would go. Is this a sign that she is taking things more seriously with him and using me, or am I merely being paranoid and delusional? My thoughts are in disarray. She keeps playing mind games with me, and her erratic behavior is taking a toll because I would take a bullet for her, yet I do not know if she is now completely emotionally detached from me after everything. She labels me as crazy, toxic, and controlling. Additionally, I threatened the guy with violence when I found out about his actions, which he later relayed to her cousin, resulting in her cousin holding resentment toward me. I am uncertain if her family knows the whole story, as she often plays the victim. To date, she has never taken responsibility for her actions or apologized. I want to retaliate against this guy for betraying me and manipulating me in front of my face while attempting to pursue my girlfriend without my knowledge. They have shattered my hope of ever experiencing genuine friends and true love. I am genuinely lost in life right now and have distanced myself from my family for her, as she did not get along with them due to prior issues that were my family's fault. Should I end this relationship and ask her to leave, or should I try to understand the situation? By the way, the guy mentioned he wants to press charges against me for my threat, but I am uncertain whether he will follow through. His behavior frustrates me. How can he attempt to steal his friend's girlfriend? Ironically, this situation also happened to him in his previous relationship, and it is astonishing how he is now doing precisely what was done to him. Update: I kicked her out, took her phone, and tossed her belongings outside. It is not my responsibility to pack them neatly for her. I informed her parents as well, just in case they were curious about why she is moving back in with them, as a matter of respect since they treated me like their own son. A Story 3. A moonlit dive in Havelock turned into an unforgettable moment when my instructor and I connected through laughter and reassurance. "Please don't leave me midway," I half-joked. He replied, "I won't leave you, don't worry." Our fateful encounter remained unfinished as I drove away, heart heavy with unspoken words and a longing to know more. What if I hadn't left? Have you ever encountered someone, if only for a fleeting moment, and felt as though you could never forget them? This is my first Reddit post and perhaps my last. This chapter of my life occurred just a month ago, so I wrote The Unfinished Wave. The Unfinished Wave. It all began under the moonlight. On our first day in Havelock, we found ourselves at a resort with a private beach. The moon illuminated the surroundings, and its gentle light danced on the water, causing the surface to sparkle as though someone had sprinkled glitter into the sea. The sky transformed into a soft, romantic pink as my friends and I ventured into the water. It was magical. We laughed, played, and savored every moment beneath that dreamlike sky. The following day, we had our scuba sessions scheduled. When we arrived at the scuba office, we were given some documents to sign, basic waivers. We were also provided with our scuba gear and clothing. Afterward, we left our luggage at the office and began our approximately 300-meter walk toward the training area. Since the evening prior to the dive, I had been filled with nerves. There is something daunting about plunging into such an immense ocean. I had watched scuba diving videos to mentally prepare myself for what I was signing up for. However, when I met my instructor, everything changed. I didn't notice him until I caught him making too much eye contact with me while he was explaining. Suddenly, he asked me, "Where are you from?" Instead of answering directly, I queried, "Why do you want to know?" He smiled and repeated the question. I joked to my friends that he must think I am foolish because I wasn't grasping the diving signals correctly. My friends chuckled and said, "He's just making small talk, just reply." So I responded saying, "I am from Maharashtra." He had a dusky complexion, curly copper-colored hair, brown eyes, and a pleasant smile. There was something grounded about him. He spoke softly, not frequently, but just enough to be reassuring. After the training session, we made our way toward our speedboat. That boat was meant to transport us to the shallow water where we would dive. I was silently hoping that this same instructor would accompany me underwater. I had no logical reason to expect it, but I simply wanted it to be him. Perhaps I trusted him with my life. Then I saw him on the boat, one of the 3 instructors from the scuba agency. I felt a wave of relief and joy. While on the boat, I told him, "I want you to accompany me. I only want to dive with you." He smiled and agreed. I suppose he was happy too. When my turn finally came, I almost backed out. The crew had already strapped the oxygen cylinder onto me and placed the weights, but I was panicking. He was already in the water waiting for me. I didn't want to go anymore. The person who was supposed to encourage me kept urging me, as did my friends. Eventually, I took the plunge. I said, "Okay, push me," and he pushed me. My dive master lifted me out of the water. That's how the process works. He reviewed the hand signals with me and then began guiding me slowly toward the area where we would descend near the coral reefs. As we moved through the water, he continued speaking to me softly and kindly, as if he wanted to ensure that I never felt alone in the water. I informed him, "I have a water phobia, I fear water." Yet I found myself conversing freely, discussing anything that came to mind, and he was kind and responsive, warm in a way that made me feel safe. I arrived in Andaman with the intention of not bonding with strangers, but here I was, talking to this unknown person so openly. I remember nervously saying, "Please don't leave me midway." It was half a joke, half a fear. You know how when you learn to ride a bicycle and you plead with your parents not to let go and they always do? I think that fear flooded back. And he very sweetly reassured me, "No, I won't leave you, don't worry." He truly meant it, not as an instructor, not as a part of his job, but as a person who recognized that I needed to hear those words. We descended underwater and it was incredible. I never thought I would witness something like that in my life. Thanks to my friends for including it in our itinerary. While underwater, I tried to reach out to my friend so we could form a heart shape for a picture together. I tried so hard that I accidentally opened my mouth to call her name, causing my mask to shift, which allowed water to seep in, and I panicked. I signaled him to ascend. After a while at the surface, I told him I could attempt again. I don't recall my exact words, but he was smiling and made a comment about the BTS hand signs, by which he meant pinching my nose underwater and blowing air from my ears. He said, "This is not a BTS heart sign, it's to pinch your nose." We laughed at his lighthearted, casual banter and went under again, although I am not a fan of BTS. During the second dive, once more, water entered my mouth and I couldn't take it any longer. As soon as we were back at the surface, I asked him to take me to the boat. I inquired how long we had been underwater, and he said, "You dove for about 20 to 25 minutes. I was shocked. "Is that all?" I asked. He laughed. He then asked me my name, and this time I responded gently. I didn't ask his name, though. I wanted to, but something stopped me. I continued rambling, explaining how terrifying it was when water came in through the regulator. Finally, when we reached the boat, I lay down, waiting for the remaining divers. As I lay there, I replayed the underwater scenes in my mind, spotting fish that resembled Nemo, encountering strange and beautiful creatures I had only seen on National Geographic, observing the corals, and each shimmer of light felt like a secret whispered by the ocean. In that moment of quiet reflection, something changed within me. I returned not just to the surface, but to a slightly different version of myself. When the last person had completed their dive, my dive master came back to the boat. I attempted to make eye contact with him, but I couldn't. He seemed to want to avoid it. On the walk back to the scuba office, I kept stopping, held back by a quiet pull, torn between moving forward and returning to him before sealing the moment forever. I didn't go back, though. Perhaps I was scared not of him, but of what that step might signify in such an unfamiliar place. So I returned to the scuba office, changed, and sat on the bench outside. Normally, I am the first to be ready to head back to the hotel. But that day, something anchored me. There were 7 of us, and the vehicle could only accommodate a few at a time. Thus, although I could have gone in the first round, I hesitated. I told my friend, "You all go, I will wait and take the second round." He looked at me strangely, knowing me too well, understanding that I don't typically act this way, but I pleaded a little. I had no reason, I just wanted to wait. I sat outside on the bench, wishing to see him again just once, perhaps to finish that conversation, to ask his name, to know a little about his life here. I don't know, I just sensed that something was unfinished. And then he appeared carrying all the scuba equipment. I didn't expect him to actually be there. I was so happy that my heart raced. He smiled, I smiled, and then we exchanged silent glances as he washed the scuba clothes and equipment. Then he sat under the tree outside the office, curling his hands around his knees. I sat in the same posture on the bench. We looked at each other repeatedly, everything we didn't express hanging heavily in the air. My ride had arrived, I had to leave. I went in without looking back, thinking that perhaps everything was becoming too strange, and that was the last time we saw each other. I don't know if I will ever see him again, but I suppose some waves are not meant to crash, just to pass by, leaving the shore changed.